Wait a second. Let me add this. Okay. All right. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. We're going to continue looking at Bereshit. We want to look at, we're probably going to go through 2 chapters. We'll go through this, well, probably 1.5 chapters, I guess. We're going to look at what's going on with Joseph as he is going through his little things in this prison that he's been put in because of what we talked about last week in terms of the Potiphar's wife trying to accost him. And so we'll just go ahead and get into this. We want to look at and pay attention to Joseph and his ability to interpret dreams. This is something that he's been someone who had dreams, and also we see that he's able to interpret dreams, and we want to look at that and think about that and talk about a little bit how we can kind of draw from what goes on with Joseph over here. So we want to begin. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look through chapter 40. We're gonna go ahead and just read chapter 40 through. Let me pull this up, and then we'll talk about it some here. Okay, if you can just go ahead and start on verse 1, chapter 40 there.
Okay, hold me 1 second. Pull up on my phone. Okay, and after these events, it came to be that the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim sinned against their master, the sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth with his 2 officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. So he put them in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was a prisoner. And the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them, and he served them. So they were in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim, who were confined in the prison, dreamed a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with his own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers, uh, who were with him in confinement of his master's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We each have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Relate them to me, please." So the chief cupbearer related his dream to Joseph, and he said to him, "See, in my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, uh, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. So I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you shall put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, according to the former ruling when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show loving commitment to me, and mention me to the Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For truly I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews. And also I have done not today. I've done not that they should put me into the dungeon. And the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, and he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream and saw three white baskets were on my head, and in the utmost basket all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. The three baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from you. And on the third day, Pharaoh's birthday, came to be that he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up his head of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his post and the cupbearer again, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. And the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him.
Okay. All right. So if we look over here, let's go back up some. Talk about this a little bit. When we look over again, we have Joseph over here, who has been placed in this prison. It seems as if this, it wasn't like, somebody goes to prison today. They're going over to this place. They're going to be taken over to this place where, all of the prisoners go. But it seems as if there was a place within the house of these people that was actually a prison. Like they had like a prison in their in their place where they were. And we see that there's these various people that are connected to the house that are in the prison. The cupbearer, the baker, Joseph, who was the one who was over the affairs of the house. So all these people who transgressed against the house were all, prisoned here in the house. I wanted to look just real quick. When we look at, let's see here. Let me pull this up. When we look at verse 4, over here, when we see this over here where it says the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them and he served them. This word here is interesting. This word is translated as charge. If we looked over here, we see even the KJV says the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them and he served them, which even like the way they have it translated is not we can't really understand exactly what's going on. Even when you look at, oh wait, let me put this on this other version so we can see it on the side. When you look at this word over here, it can mean that he was in charge of them, because this word pakad can be by analogy, right, to oversee. We know one that he's overseer, a bishop, who uses this word pakad. So we know that it can mean like the way that we think about it in terms of him being in charge of them. But at the same time, he is serving them. So, sometimes we see in prison, everyone's prisoners, but we see that people can be in prison and then have duties that they have, more privileges, more duties, more things to do. So I'm saying it could mean that he was literally in charge of them, or it could just mean that he was given charge to deal with certain things, because it seems as if he's tending to them, because he goes and he serves them, right? It says that Joseph is in charge of them and he served them. So he was able to be where they were and serve them in some capacity. So I'm saying that it could be that he was, maybe he delivered the food. I don't know. Maybe he it's unclear.
Wasn't there a guy at the prison who like gave out like uniforms or something like that?
What prison?
Up at Albion.
Gave out uniforms.
When he went to the administrative office, he was in the administrative office.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
What he was giving out.
He wasn't.
Uniform, wasn't
Yes, yeah. So right. So, you go there and there's jobs, people are doing things. You see when I sit there and wait for the guys to come over to the class, I see people, taking big vats of trash from one place to another. When I went up there to get my ID and all that stuff taken care of, they had, prisoners they were getting uniforms and clothes and all of the essentials together for like incoming people coming to the place for the first time. So you have these people who are given these different responsibilities and jobs, not to say that they're in charge of the people, but they are given charge to take care of different things related to the people. So not to say that Joseph wasn't in charge, because he very well could have been. I'm just saying that he also very well could have just been overseeing various tasks in the prison, and had more freedoms and liberties than they did. But what I wanted to really pay more attention to over here, if we look, I just wanted to just bring that up just because. But if we look over here in verse 7, something interesting happens where it says, and he asked Pharaoh's officer, hold on, verse 8. Where it says, and they said to him, we each had dreamed a dream, no one to interpret it. And Joseph said, do not interpretations belong to Elohim. Do not interpretations belong to Elohim. And then he says, tell me the dream. Right? So he it seems he's kind of injecting himself into this whole process of things. First, he's saying, they're asking about these dreams that they had. No one's able to understand what's going on. he says the Most High is the one who interprets dreams. Oh yeah, so tell me the dream. It's interesting the way that the way that is worded there, because we could think he's not saying that he's Elohim. Certainly not. He can't be.
Saying he's a prophet.
He must be at least, at bare minimum, we can say that, I guess. But right, we're at bare minimum. If we say, we can just say that he's not saying that he's Elohim. But what he is saying is that the Most High interprets dreams and tells him what the interpretation is, because he's saying the Most High is the one who interpretation belongs to him. So you tell me the unspoken part is, I'll find out from him and then I'll tell it back to you, right? Yeah. Right. So I guess the other unspoken part is that he's not dealing with you. Right? That's the unspoken part that's there. I'm connected to the Most High, you're not. Interpretation comes from him. You're not connected. I am connected. You tell me the dream. I'll go talk to him and bring.
Get back.
I'll come back with you with what he said. So I'm saying that Joseph knows that he is connected to the Most High, and he's able to say, he knows that it's from the Most High, but he knows that he's connected, right? So one of the things I wanted to think about over here when we think about this thing that's going on with Joseph and this baker and the cupbearer, it caused me to think about, what does it actually take to be connected to the Almighty, right? Because we know that must have been the thing, right? They wasn't connected. He was connected. Dreams, the interpretation of dreams comes from the Most High. And so, we have to be able to know how we too can be connected to the Most High, right? How are we supposed to be connected to the Most High so that we can know what it is that Elohim wants for us to know, right? When we look over here with these things, with this cupbearer and the bread baker, the dream that they had, was about them, things that's going on with them personally. But when we see later on in the next chapter, what we look at, the thing that's going on got to do with the whole nation, and it's kind of a critical kind of thing that the people need to know about, right? And so we want to make sure that we're able to be connected to the Most High, so that we're able to hear from him, right? So let's look over here. Let's go look at a couple verses over here. Let's pull up. All right, let me get rid of this. Let's pull up. Let's look at John. I think this is important. Look at John 14:6. What does that say? John 14:6.
It says, Yeshua said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Okay, so we have to understand that if we want to be connected to the Father, our situation, they wasn't dealing with Yeshua back in Joseph's day. But if we want to sit up here and try to figure out how we ourselves, we can look at Joseph and see he was connected. We can look and see these Egyptians and know that they wasn't connected. If we want to sit up here and say, how can we be connected? Yeshua himself tells us, no one comes to the Father except through me. He's the way, the truth, and the life. If we look at John 10:1, what's that first verse there say?
Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber.
Okay, so when we think about the idea of Yeshua, who is indeed the door, Yeshua is the door. So if you was to try to come some other way, that causes you to be a thief and a robber. Right? So if we think about the Most High and his law, statutes, and commands, and the fact that if you're a thief and a robber, that puts you on the outside of his situation, right? How you supposed to inherit the kingdom and you're a thief and a robber, right? So if we was to say that you potentially could enter in this other way, you get thrown out because you're a thief and a robber, right? So we have to think about the fact that Yeshua is not like a footnote in this situation. Right? He's not a footnote in our relationship with the Father. He's the way that we get there. And I think that too many times people kind of I believe in Messiah, yeah, and then they just get back to a lot of these carnal things. Right? Yeah, Yeshua. Yeah, I believe Yeshua, all that. He died for me, blase blah. Right? They make Yeshua and your relationship with the master like a footnote. Right? Like some addendum, an appendix to the story. Right? But he's the main ingredient. He's the main ingredient. There's no other way. If you try to come some other way, carnality, flesh way, you're a thief and a robber. And a thief and a robber can't enter in. Right? So we have to know and understand the work that Messiah has done for us and have our faith be grounded and rooted in that. Right? By another way, by any other way, don't matter what the way is, by any other way, you're a thief and a robber. Right, so let's just stay right there. Let's think about that for a little bit. Let's go over here to First Peter. It's First Peter chapter 2. First Peter chapter 2. Let's start reading. Let's just start reading at the first. Here, let me get rid of this for a second here. Let me get rid of this. Let's start reading at verse 1. First Peter chapter 2, verse 1.
The unadulterated milk of the word, in order that you grow by it. Indeed, you have tasted of the master is good, drawing near to him a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by Elohim and precious. You also, as living stones, are being built up, a spiritual house, a set apart priesthood, to offer up spiritual slaughter offerings acceptable to Elohim through Yeshua Messiah. Because it is contained in the scripture, see, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, chosen, precious, and he who believes on him shall by no means be put to shame. The preciousness then is for you who believe But to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders reject has become the chief cornerstone, a stone of stumbling block, and a
Listen.
rock that makes for falling, who stumble because they are disobedient to the word to which they also were appointed. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set apart nation, a people for possession, that should proclaim the praise of him who called you out of darkness unto his marvelous light. For who once were not a people, but now the people of Elohim, who hold on, it just jumped. Okay, who had not obtained compassion, but now obtain compassion.
Okay, very good. Stop at 10 is good. So there's a lot said over there in First Peter over there, but when we see, if we go back up here and we're still thinking about this idea of being connected to the Father, right? So that we could get to the place where we understand what he's saying, what he's trying to say to us, whether it be through dreams or whatever. But we got to figure out how we can even be connected to him in the first place. So it starts out talking about putting aside all evil and deceit and hypocrisies, right? And evil words, turning away from sin. That's the first thing we gotta do. If we want to sit up there and be connected to the Father, we got to be disconnected from sin first. How we gonna be connected to the Most High and be connected to sin simultaneously? You got people out here who trying it. They trying that. They trying to be, they want to be connected to, their situations, their sin, their evil ways. They want to keep those and then dabble with the Most High. But when we look at what Paul's talking about, Peter's talking about over here, he said, having put aside. So that means you've already put those things aside. All evil, deceit, hypocrisies, envyings, and all evil words. You doing that. You taking care of that first, right? And then in verse 2, he says, as newborn babes, desire the unadulterated milk of the word in order that you grow by it. So if we think about this idea of growing, if we think about this idea of gaining, initiating, and participating in a relationship with the Father, we need to understand what this unadulterated milk of the word is in order that we grow by whatever it is. Whatever it is, we need to know what it is. We need to get it. And then we can allow ourselves to be fed and grow by it. If we want to sit up here and know what it is that the Most High is trying to say to his people. If we never did this, then we can't know what the Most High is trying to say to his people. We just can't even know. If you then never turn from your evil ways and all evil and deceit and hypocrisies and envyings and all evil words and became as a newborn baby and then got some unadulterated milk of the word, how did you grow? I don't even know how you grew. You couldn't have. You couldn't have ever grown. Verse 3 says, if indeed you have tasted that the master is good, right? You actually, this is talking about somebody who actually experience the goodness of Yeshua and what it is that he has to offer. So that got to do with you understanding and knowing what exactly it is that he did for you. Yeah, I believe in Messiah. Yeah, but this about this Deuteronomy 28 over here. Yeah, but yeah, of course, Messiah. Yeah, all that. The blood, of course. Right? Are we making Messiah this footnote and then getting into all these other things? We go way deep into all this other stuff. And Yeshua is a footnote. Meanwhile, when we look over here at what Peter's talking about in this thing that looks like this thing that looks like a process, where he's saying after you've put these things away and then became like little babies and then desired this unadulterated milk of the word so that you was able to grow. And then in verse 3, we're talking about you actually tasting, you know what, babies, they love that milk, don't they? They love that milk. They can smell it. They can smell the milk. I can't hardly smell it, but them babies,
they come out and they look for it.
They look for it. And I don't know who teaches them how to sit up there and get the milk to come out, but they know. They know how to do it. They do something with their tongue, like in their mouth. It's crazy. It's not just regular, just like sucking. Like it's some things going on in the mouth with the tongue and all that to get the milk to come. It's like they little experts at getting that stuff to come out. As a newborn, they're experts at getting that milk to come out. Unadulterated. And little Africa, she wanted that unadulterated milk. Africa. She would not. You couldn't put breast milk in a bottle and give it to Africa. To her, it was poison, what you was giving it to her. It could be her mommy's milk, but you put that stuff in a bottle and try to give it to her, it was the worst thing that she could have ever had in her life. She wanted that unadulterated milk only, right? And that's how we got to be if we want to be connected to the Father, because Yeshua said that if you come some other way, if you come to the Father some other way, you're a thief and a robber. And again, we could say maybe you could come another way. You could get in, but you're a thief and a robber, so you get kicked out.
You got the appearance of righteousness.
Yeah. You're there. You're in with us.
Yeah, you sit around right where we're at.
But then when it comes to find out that you was a thief and a robber, then you get thrown out, right? So we got to think about what Peter's sitting up there saying. Again, we're saying all this just thinking about the fact that Joseph was connected to the Father. And we see the difference between him and people who wasn't connected to the Father, where they was actually receiving things from the Father, but didn't understand it. They didn't understand the things that they was receiving from the Father because they wasn't connected to the Father. So we need to find out how to be connected to the Father then, right? Or else how are we going to understand what he's trying to tell us? Interpretation comes from him. So the message is coming from him. These people was getting messages about their redemption from prison and their death, respectively. Right? They was getting the message from the Most High, but they had no idea what it meant. So they had to go to the one who was connected to the Father to find that out. But let's look more over here at First Peter, right? So First Peter talks about this idea of sin. How you gonna be connected with sin and connected with the Father? You can't. He said you put that stuff away already, right? You tasted this unadulterated milk of the word. You understand what it is that Yeshua has done for you. You understand the sacrifice. You understand your position, where you was at and where he put you at. You understand all that, right? Drawing near to him, a living stone, rejected indeed among men, but chosen of Elohim and precious. Right? We gotta think about what these things is saying about Yeshua and his. It's saying that he's precious over here, right? Like he's not a footnote. Yeshua is not a footnote. He's not this little small number that's like what they call that superscript. What they call that when
Right.
that's not what he is. He's chosen by Elohim and precious. If we go down, where does it talk about that? Because where's it talk? What verse is that? Does it give it to you right there? Oh, it gives it to you right there. 118 and 22.
wait. Oh, in Psalm?
Hold on. Yeah. Can you get that Psalm 118 and 22? Because firstness then is for you who believe. And again, we talked about believing before having faith. It's not just this thing that goes in your mind, in your mind. You're trusting all the way in Messiah and what he's done. You believe what he done wholeheartedly. You know, if you put your unwavering faith in him, that is going to do something in and for you, right? But to those who are disobedient, hold on. Let me see. What do it say about them ones? Let me see if that's the verse that I was looking for. No, that ain't the one. That's just, where's the one where it talks about the getting crushed in the powder? I think that might be in the Gospels. Hold on a second here.
You say get crushed in the powder?
Yeah, the cornerstone. If Yeshua talks about if you go down to the cornerstone.
Matthew 21.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's also Luke 20.
Let me get the Matthew one. Matthew what?
21:44.
Matthew 21 and 44. Okay, good. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. What's that say? Matthew 21 and 44.
It says, and he who falls on the stone shall be broken, but whomever it falls, he shall be pulverized.
Oh, yeah. That's the one I was looking for right there, right? So we talking about this stone that the builders rejected that becomes the chief cornerstone. If you fall on the stone, then you become broken. But that's what we want to be, broken, because he wants those who got a contrite heart and a broken spirit, right? He wants us to be like that. So if we fall on the stone, then we become broken. But whomever the stone falls, if the stone fall on you, right, you gonna become pulverized, right? And some of the other accounts say crushed into powder, right? And so you could be on either side of the situation, but one side is far more better than the other side, right? But again, even if we talk about the first point in terms of falling on the stone, getting connected to the Father through Messiah, there's that brokenness, right? There's that humbleness, that humility that's there, right? When we come to him based off of pride, that's not this, right? Because if we fall on the stone, we become broken. if the stone falls on us, it pulverizes us. Okay, I'm gonna go back to First Peter. Okay, so and again, now when we look at this, what's going on over here, again, talking about this preciousness, and again, this is interesting where it talks about it like this preciousness, because you're understanding the goodness of what it is that Messiah provides for you. Right? When you could think about it in this way, this preciousness, right? When you understand it, it is that, right? When you know what it is that he's done for you, right? It is that for you, right? So he goes through all of that stuff all the way up until we get down to verse 9, where it gets to this idea of being chosen and royal and set apart and being this peculiar treasure, right? This is where we supposed to be at as a result of you know, having that true, genuine connection with the Father, which comes through fully understanding who Messiah is and what he did for you. That's the way that you're able to be connected to the Father, right? And that's what we have to seek first, is having that true connection to the Father. We find out about these things, and we want to find out the secrets first.
The hidden mystery.
We want to find out all the mysteries and things, and that's what drives us, and that's our foundation. But our foundation got to be Messiah. Yeah, Messiah, of course. Messiah, of course. We are making Messiah a footnote, and he is the chief cornerstone. Everything that is built on him. And so if we go back and look in Genesis and think about Joseph over there and his great connection that he has with the Father, where he's the way he speaks, he's so close with the Father, he's able to just speak as Elohim almost. Yeah, interpretations of Elohim. Tell me what it is, and then I could. That's how close he is with the Father. As where he can just interject. He don't even got to say all the things. We can think about the unspoken part, but he don't got to say all of that stuff. That's what his relationship is. Well, all he got to do is that it comes from the Father. You tell me, and then I'm going to tell you what it means. I'm saying that for us, we have to think about where real growth begins, and and see did that, was that our process, right? Because there's not many ways to there's many ways when we think about these other paths and religions and things. There's many ways to righteousness, but in this thing over here, there's only one way, and it's Yeshua, and understanding actually what he did. How could we sit up here and have unwavering faith in Yeshua and not even understand fully what it is that he did for you, the preciousness of it, right? That's the milk. That's how we grow. If we come as babies, we can't get in, we literally can't get into these other things without being brought to maturity by the goodness and preciousness of that milk of the word, which is Messiah and what it is that he's done for you. That's how we get to the place where we're able to understand even what the Father's will is. You don't know what the Father wants. You don't know what he's doing. You don't know what's going on, even if you don't have that true relationship with the master. You can't know. You're just like these the cupbearer and the bread maker, because you came some other way. So when we look over here back in Genesis, and we see, now think about what's going on, right? So Joseph, two things, well, a couple things could have been happening over here with this whole situation. We know that he heard the dream, and so he was either told by the Father what it meant, because we already seen out of his mouth that interpretation comes from Elohim. So he was either told what it meant from Elohim, or through his Yah-given wisdom, he was able to understand it and interpret it. But either way, we could say that it was from the Father. If we say that the Father heard through what the accounts were and then told him the interpretation, or the Most High just gave Joseph this wisdom to be able to understand and interpret, either way, it still comes from the Father. We could think about like when we look in Exodus, when the implements for the tabernacle is built. It talks about the fact that the Most High blesses this Beelzebul and these other people with the wisdom in dealing with these metals and things, and he blesses them with the ability to go and be these craftsmen and build this stuff. So either the Most High is every step of the way, moving their hands and arms and showing them what to do like that, or he just blesses them with the ability and the ability to be skillful with the knowledge, and they're just doing it, right? But either way, it's from the Father, and it's the same thing I'm saying with Joseph over here, where the Most High could literally had told him based on what they said, or he blessed him with the wisdom to be able to interpret it himself, right? But the most important thing is to ultimately know that this thing is coming from the Most High. But what we're also seeing over here is that Joseph is in the equation. He said he adds to it, right? But I would say there's a human element. Is the point I'm getting at. There's a human element in the situation. His obedience to the Father, his obedience, his discernment, his wisdom, that all come from the Father, right? There's a human element in the situation. The humans need each other. We need each other. Period. Point blank. He didn't put us out here just to be islands unto ourselves. You know, there needed to be this other person involved, this other human being involved in the situation, so that all of the things can be known. The things that were hidden can be known. That human element, whether they was his people or they wasn't his people. Because if we look over, and let's look at some verses over here. If we go to Ezekiel, let's pull up Ezekiel over here. Let me see here. Ezekiel 3:17. Let me put this up on the screen. Ezekiel.
And I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. And you shall hear my word from my mouth, and shall warn them for me.
Read to 19.
Okay. When I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die. You have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his wrong, to save his life. The same wrong man shall die from his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. But if you have warned the wrong, and he does not turn from his wrong, nor from his wrong way, he shall die in his crookedness, and you have delivered your being.
Okay, so the difference over here, we looking at now, he's talking to someone who's connected to the Father to talk to his actual people now, right? Not these Egyptians who aren't his people, who was disconnected from all together. But he's talking to his prophet to talk to his people now. Where he could have, why couldn't he just put it in the hearts of the people? Why couldn't the Most High just drop in the spirits of all of his people that they needed to turn from their wickedness? I mean, I guess he could have did it if he wanted to do it that way, but that's not the way that he did it. He had their turning be instigated. He had their turning be instigated by another human, by a human being. Right? There was a human element involved in the situation where he very well could have just dropped it in each and every one of their spirits and just, people just was able to come to the knowledge of the truth based on their own reasoning and understanding. He initiated it from another person, human connection. And he always does it that way. That's the example that we have. Let's look at well-known scripture in Hosea 4:6. What does that say?
My people have perished for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being priests to me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children.
Okay, so we see some things going on over here, right? The people perish for lack of knowing. But over in the other scripture, they didn't know, but the one person knew. But if he didn't tell them, then it would have. They needed to have been told by the person who did know, who did have the connection. So there's people out there who are dependent upon the obedience of the obedient, the human element, connection. We need our Josephs in our lives to be able to talk to us and tell us what the will of the Father is. And he said, and the Most High set it up this way. That's how he set it up. Over here, he said to the people that have forgot the Torah of Elohim, I also forgot your children. Now the children is suffering too, the people and their children, because they don't have the knowledge. But we can connect it with the other scriptures where you got people outside of themselves involved in it too, who have to distribute the knowledge. And all of this is connected to the way that the Most High moves and operates, which we would know if we was connected to the Father, right? Because when we're connected to the Father, we understand how he operates. We see how he moves. And so we can see when people might say, well, the Father said he was going to do this, and he took the Spirit said this or that. Meanwhile, you really don't have any clue or connection to how the Father operates, right? Because you never was connected truly to Yeshua. You never got that unadulterated in you. You never was able to understand the preciousness that lies in Messiah. And so when we look over here at Joseph, it helps us to see something that the Most High has been doing for his people the whole time. He causes for us to be dependent on people. He made it that way. He forced us to sit up here and be dependent on people. And when people are disobedient, then people suffer. More people suffer from the disobedience of other people. The will of the Father is administered and moved and driven through his people, his obedient people. Yeah, serving his people. When you're serving his people, you're serving him. So guess what? If you not serving the people, you're not serving the Most High. And if we think about it, the way that the prophet was talking about over there, when you have a service to do and you're not serving the people, then you become guilty, right? And so we got to think about all this. Again, looking at Joseph being who he was, he rolls up on them. He rolls up on the cupbearer and the bread baker and he notices something with them. What was he? He was like, you know, what you sad? You look sad. Like you look like this. He was concerned about their situation, and then he wanted to address the situation, right? He saw a need in them, and then he sought out to address that situation. He served them, right? So even if we go and say like where we started at in terms of him being charged over them, even if we say that it was kind of like a overseeing type of a situation, he cared about their situation, and then he saw that a need needed to be met, and then he sought out how to meet that need. Right? And so we see him manifesting the character of the Most High. We see that right there. Okay, so let's hammer this down some more. We want to look at also I want to look at Jeremiah 23 verse, what's that, 32. What's that say?
Stray by their falsehoods and by their reckless boasting. But I myself did not send them, nor have I commanded them, and they do not profit this people at all, declares Yahweh.
Okay, so now we see over here where we see the kind of the negative aspects of the process that the Most High set up. He set it up like this for us to be dependent on people, and then you got these false ones out here who prophesy false dreams, right? But in doing that, the people are actually being led astray by the falsehoods and by their reckless boastings, right? But again, the thing that we see over here is the fact that the Most High did indeed set this situation up where his people are kind of dependent on these other people. Like the Most High created this interconnectedness that we have with human beings. Again, he could have easily just dropped in the spirit of each and every one of his people to let them know what was what. But he put it in, he set the situation up where there could be false people out here who's spreading these falsities and indeed leading the people astray. Which I'm saying all that just to say that we have built into the situation that the Most High created an interconnectedness that's necessary with the people, where it becomes necessary for all of his people to be operating in obedience to him for the good of all the people. We need each other. We need people, right, to help us, because we're not always seeing and thinking about things all in the same way. Even when you think about the dreams of the bread maker and and the cupbearer. The bread baker's dream, he was dreaming about what he knew about. The Most High was talking to him by the way of bread. Right? And that's the way, that was his perspective on things. And then the cupbearer, the Most High was speaking to him in terms of wine and things that go in cups. And so we can only see things the way that we're able to see things. Right? And we need others' perspectives to help us to be able to see more things. Let's look at because when we look over here in 1 Corinthians, it helps us with this. I don't want to look through all of this because it's a whole chapter, but let's read 1 Corinthians 12 down through I'll stop you. Just go ahead and start reading there.
Okay. It says, and concerning spiritual gifts, brothers, do not wish you to be ignorant. I do not wish you to be ignorant. It says, you know that you were nations led away to dumb idols, even as you might be led. Therefore, I make known to you that no one speaking by the Spirit of Elohim says Yeshua is cursed. It is a curse, and not one able to say that Yeshua is master except by the set apart Spirit.
Okay, but just stop right there. So that's interesting right there. That's extreme in terms of the idea of saying that Yeshua is a curse, but the opposite side of the spectrum of that is understanding his preciousness, right? So on one side, part of this of the thing, we understand his preciousness by the Spirit. And so it says over there, speaking of the Spirit of Elohim, no one speaking by the Spirit of Elohim says Yeshua is a curse. You wouldn't say that because through the Spirit you will understand his preciousness, right? But go ahead, verse 4.
It says, and there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. But the different kinds of services, there are different kinds of services, but the same Master. And there are different kinds of workings, but it is the same Elohim who is working all in all. It says, to each one is given the manifestation of the spirit of profiting. For to one is given a word of wisdom through the Spirit, and another of the word according to the same Spirit, and to another belief by the same Spirit, and to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, and another operations of powers, and to another prophecy, and to another discerning of spirits, and another kinds of tongues, and another interpretation of tongues. But one of the same Spirit works all these, distributing to each one individually as he intends.
Okay, very good. So when we look over here at what this is talking about, it's talking about the idea of interconnectedness of the Most High's people and the necessity for us to be able to depend on one another for our various gifts. Some people is gifted in this thing. Some people was gifted in that thing. Some people don't know nothing about this other thing, right? And they need the other person to be able to help them to be able to understand about the thing that they not gifted in, right? All the same Spirit, right? But everybody working together in order to get to the bottom of things. right? And then we just see kind of the a hinting of that when we look at what's going on with Joseph, because them people didn't know anything. They was totally disconnected, right? But the point was is that they needed to have that direction from the one who was connected to the Ruach, who was connected to the Spirit, right? For his specific gift. And so when we think about this in terms of our situation, right, we have to understand that when we want to get to the place of being able to understand what the will of the Father is, of course, the first thing is that we have to be connected to the Father. We have to be connected to the Father. And that's the way we begin to hear and know what it is that he wants for us to be doing in our lives and in our situations, and how he wants for us to deal and serve his people. It all begins with that connectedness to the Most High through Yeshua HaMashiach, the chief cornerstone, right? When you fall on that stone, you become humble. You become broken. But when it fall on you, you become powder, pulverized. Let's look at here. Let's look at this real quick. Ephesians 1 and 17. Let's look at that. What did I say? Ephesians 1 verse 17. What's that say?
It says that the Elohim of our Master Yeshua Messiah, the Father of esteemed, would give you a spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of Him.
Okay, so when we think about the idea of having the knowledge of him, right? It says Paul here is saying to these people, he's praying to the Father that Messiah would give these people the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him, right? If we want to have a understanding as to what it is the Most High is trying to do, wants to do for his people, we need that spirit of wisdom and revelation and knowledge of him. And what more of a time do we need to have the spirit of wisdom and revelation of the knowledge of him than now? We got all of this stuff going on.
Yeah, true.
We need that spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him right now, so that we could know what's going on. The baker and the cupbearer had some life-threatening and life-changing things going on. And then the Most High thought it enough to even tell them about it. But they couldn't understand it. It took the one who did have the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him to be able to let them know what was going on. That the Most High wanted for them to even know about. He wanted for them to know about it. But they couldn't discern what was going on because they wasn't fully connected. Right? So there's things that's going on that the Most High want for us to know about, and He's trying to tell us, but we can't hear because we're not connected to the Father.
I think also, where the righteousness of Yah is foolishness to those who are in the world.
Yes.
They can't comprehend it. Even when Yeshua came, talking to John, said that the light came into the world and the world could not comprehend it.
Mm,
So
they comprehended it not.
so it's
Hey, pour this out.
incomprehensible.
Give me some a little bit fresh. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And
So
so,
our job is to go out and
yeah.
make it known to the people who can't know.
Yes. It got to be made known because we see an example of the Most High wanting for these people to know. He wants for the people to know. But at the same time, even though he wants for the people to know, he wants for the people to be made known by those who are connected to him. And if we not doing our part in the situation, then the fullness of the plan is not being realized. And so we got to think about all of these things, right? Let's look at another verse over here. I want to look at Philippians 3. Philippians 3. Start reading at verse 10.
It says to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death, if somehow I might attain the resurrection from the dead. Keep going. Okay.
Yeah, read to 16.
Okay. Not that I have already received or already been perfected, but I press on to lay hold of that which Messiah Yeshua has also laid hold on me. Brothers, I do not count myself to have laid hold of it yet, but only this, forgetting what is behind and reaching out of what lies ahead. I press on towards the goal for the prize of the high calling of Elohim in Messiah Yeshua. As many then as are perfect should have this mind, and if you think differently in any respect, Elohim shall also reveal this to you.
16.
16, okay. But to what we have already attained, walk by the same rule, be of the same mind.
Okay, very good. So 15 said, as many then as are perfect should have this mind, and if you think differently in any respect, Elohim shall also reveal this to you. Right? So he's saying you're supposed to be thinking about it like this. And if you ain't thinking about it like this, then the Most High gonna show you that you need to be thinking about it like this. That's what Paul said over
He's
here.
basically saying if you don't understand it, then Yah's gonna show you eventually.
He didn't say, well, that's your opinion.
We'll agree to disagree.
He didn't say I agree to disagree. No, he didn't say that. He said we need to be present on to the goal for the prize for a higher calling of Elohim in Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
And all you who not pressing forward to that prize as are perfect should have this mind. And if you think differently in any respect, Elohim shall also reveal to you. I'm sitting up here trying to tell you this. If you can't see what I'm saying, then you need to go back to the drawing board and let the Most High show you what I'm saying.
People hate when you tell them that type of thing too.
I could never say that to somebody. I mean, I could say it. I could say it, but they're not gonna listen to what I'm saying. Whatever. You think you know everything. That's what they're gonna say, right? But we got to be able to get to the place where, we have to trust. We gotta trust in people. We have to be able to trust in people outside of ourselves. Most I just gonna have to show me. That's what people be saying. Well, he just gonna have to show me that. But he literally set it up. He set it up to be this way for us to sit up here and be literally dependent upon other people. Dependent upon.
He didn't make Israel as individuals.
He did not do that. He did the opposite of that. That's what he did. We get to the place where we sit up here and think it's supposed to be a way, and then when other people that we are around don't think it's that way, then we go and find other people who think it's the way that we think it's supposed to be.
Or not just be by ourselves.
Yeah. And so I'm saying that when we look at the example of Joseph, the example shows us that the Most High wants for these particular people to know something, but he don't put it in their minds to be able to understand the thing that he wants for them to know. He puts that in the mind of somebody else for him to tell them what the thing is. How we don't think that the Most High don't still work that way, where he strongly desires for you to know something, but he don't just drop the whole answer in your spirit. He giving it to you, but then he causes for you to be dependent on somebody else to be able to show you what it is that the Father's telling you. And he's not just doing that with these people who are not even connected to him. He talked about that with his own people, Israel, where their life was dependent on them obtaining this knowledge that came from the prophet. And so, we have to think about these things and understand the way in which the Father moves and the way in which he set these things up, especially now. The Most High got things for us to be knowing and things for us to be doing out here in these days and time. And a lot of people may know that he got something for us to know, but there's people out here that's just like the cupbearer and the bread maker, who that's as far as they got, is to the place that they know that the Most High wants for us to know something, but don't know what specifically that thing is. We have to seek the mind of Messiah and seek to be connected to our master so that we can know what it is that he wants for us to do, and and be connected to the body of Messiah, so that we not left out here with half messages. And so when we look at the end of the chapter 40, the end of chapter 40 of Genesis, he here, let me pull this up real quick. When we look, right, the cupbearer, the cupbearer gets out, and it says he did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Joseph went and he looked and he saw the sadness in the cupbearer and in the bread maker. He saw the sadness in them. He sought to help them out. He looked to them and wanted to serve them in the way that he was able to do it. He did that. He gave them the message that the Most High wanted for them to have. They received his goodness. Then they got out, and then they didn't even remember him. He didn't remember or have loving commitment towards Joseph. Because why would he? Why would he? He was a heathen. He don't care. You can't expect righteousness from wicked people.
Yep.
You can't expect it. He did what he was supposed to do. Right? And, you know, when you look at scriptures, like for instance in Matthew, what is that? Chapter 7, verse 6. What's that say? Matthew 7, verse 6. What's that say?
It says, do not give what is set apart to the dogs, nor throw your pearls before the pigs, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces.
Yeah, so we see here that, you know, we see what happened with the cupbearer. Joseph said, look, I did this thing for you. I blessed you with this knowledge that I've been given from the Most High. You know, look out for a brother when you get out. You know what I mean? I'm in here, you know, unjustly. I ain't do nothing to be in here. You know, let somebody know, you know, what I did for you when you get out. Put a good word in for me.
Right.
And he get out, and it said he did not remember Joseph. Not only did he not remember him, but he forgot him, it says. And so I think that's another thing that, you know, people, everybody don't even deserve the message. He obviously didn't deserve it. Right? What did he do with it? He didn't have no gratitude for the situation over here. He just went, he got what he wanted out of it. It was all selfishly motivated. He got what he wanted, and then now he's done. Right?
He's happy to be alive.
Yeah, he just happy. Right? He didn't care nothing about, you know, how he got there. And, you know, I think that, you know, the same thing could be true with the knowledge of the truth. You know, people want the benefits. People want the benefits that go along with being the chosen, but they don't want the sacrifice. They want the benefits without the sacrifice. All benefits, no sacrifice. But you can't have the benefits without the sacrifice. Yeshua said, if you want to follow me, then pick up your torture stake and follow me. In other words, it's going to be all type of sacrifice that you're going to have to endure if you want to follow me. But it's people who just want to follow, they don't want sacrifice.
Or people who, if you do show some kindness to, or revelation to, or whatever, and then they move on and they don't think about where that help came from. They just, you know, I think about that with prisoners a lot. It seems like one of those prisoner stories. You know, people in prison, they be searching out the Most High.
That's the classic. This is the classic prison scenario. You deal with these people, and you know they're so happy and grateful for the things that you do for them while they inside, because they're in a bad place. They're in a terrible place. Any type of light or anything that they receive, they're so happy for. But once they get out, they do not remember Joseph.
They forget everything.
They do not remember Joseph, but they forget him. That's how they be, right? And so I'm saying that even though it's necessary for people to receive the message, it's necessary for people to receive the message. their very life is hinged on and depends on it even. But at the same time, that same person needs to be made ready to receive the message, right? So that you're not sitting up here giving that thing which is set apart. He said, do not give what is holy, what is set apart to the dogs. So I need to know that you're not a dog before I give you this set apart thing. I think I need to know that you're not a pig before I give you these pearls. I need to know that, because all you're going to do as a pig is trample my pearls under your feet. Right? So it's necessary for those that are connected to the Most High to deliver the message to those who aren't connected. But those ones who ain't connected, in order to be able to receive that message, they need to want to be connected. Right? So they're not counted as dogs and swine. Because if they don't want to be connected and you giving them the message anyway, all they're going to do is treat it like it's nothing. And that's what we see happen with Joseph over there. That's what happened. He shared his gift with the pagans. And we see what happens. Okay, let's see here. I want to just real quick. I want to just real quick. I want to go through a part of the next chapter, and then we'll finish up the end of the next chapter next week, y'all willing. The creeks don't rise. Let me pull up let's see here, chapter 41. I want to go through that just a little bit, nothing too in depth, only because it's connected to what we're looking at, and it's connected to where we're at in the world right now, actually. Okay, Genesis 41. Okay, let's start reading that verse 1 there, please.
Okay, and it came to be at the end of 2 years' time, the Pharaoh had a dream and saw him standing by the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and lean of flesh cows ate up the 7 beautiful looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke, and he had slept and dreamed a second time, and saw 7 heads of grain coming up of one stalk, plumb and good, and saw 7 lean heads scorched by the east wind coming up after them. And the 7 lean heads swallowed the 7 plump and complete heads. Then Pharaoh awoke and saw it was a dream. And it came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved, and he sent and called for all the magicians of the Mitzrayim and all of its wise men. And Pharaoh related to them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for the Pharaoh. And the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes this day. And Pharaoh was wroth with him, with his servant, and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. Each one of us dreamed a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to interpretation of his own dream. And there was with us a Hebrew youth, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to be as he interpreted for us. So it came to be, he restored me to my office, and he hanged me. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly uh, brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved and chained his garments and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said that of you, that you understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with peace. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, in my dream, I stood on the bank of the river, and I saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up, poor and very ugly, lean of flesh, such ugliness as I've never seen in all the land of Mizraim. And the lean flesh and ugly cows ate the first 7, the fat cows. Yet when they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they have eaten them, for they were as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. Also, I looked in my dream and saw 7 heads coming up of one stalk, complete and good. Then saw 7 heads, withered, lean, scorched by the east wind, coming up after them. And the lean head swallowed the 7 good heads. And I spoke to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. It is one dream. And the 7 lean and ugly cows, which came up after them, are 7 years. And the 7 empty heads, scorched by the east wind, are 7 years of scarcity of food. This is the word which I spoke to Pharaoh. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. See, 7 years of great plenty are coming. Great plenty are coming in all the land of Mizraim. But after them, 7 years of scarcity of food shall arise, and all the plenty be forgotten of the land of Mizraim. And the scarcity of food shall destroy the land, and the plenty shall not be remembered in the land, because of the scarcity of food following, for it is very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the word is established by Elohim, and Elohim is hastening to do it. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Mizraim. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint overseers over the land, to take up while 1/5 of the land of Mizraim in the 7 years of plenty. It says, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And the food shall be for a store for the land, for the 7 years of scarcity of food, which shall be in the land of Mitzrayim. And do not let the land be cut off by the scarcity of food.
Okay, very good. So we see all of that going on again. We see this thing that was a pretty heavy thing that was, it was going to touch a lot of people. And he's telling it to the Pharaoh, the Most High, giving them these dreams. He's showing them these things in a dream. He wants them to know, right? He's telling it to him twice so that he can let them know this thing, right? It's very important. But at the same time, he don't understand it, right? He don't get it. He don't understand it because he's not connected. So it takes the one who is connected to be able to show him and tell him what's going on so that he's able to watch. I mean, so that he's able to plan and know what to do. Right? So again, when we think and we see again this idea of, Joseph again letting it be known that it's the Most High, it's Elohim who interprets, right? Who's Elohim, who's behind him, who's letting him know, who's giving him the wisdom and the knowledge and understanding to be able to understand these dreams, right? But we see that it's necessary for there to be that connection to the Father to actually know what's going on. The Most High might be speaking to these people who aren't connected. He obviously is. He's done it in this story now 3 times. And he really wants for these people who aren't connected to him to know something. Right? But in order for them to fully know what's going on, it got to go through the one who is who has that real relationship with the Father. Right? And so when we think about this now, look at what's going on out here now. They shutting down everything. Everything's closed. You can't get nothing. You get all this stuff going on. Nobody knows what's what. Stuff. We got this thing, this epidemic that's going through the land that when you compare it to other things, it don't seem like it's even as bad as other things that happen. There's been more deaths that's connected to these other things that's going on than this thing. So there's just things that's going on, that's happening, where it's making this thing that we are experiencing is turning this thing into this really serious thing, right? But we have to be able to not just sit around and not do nothing, right? And just say, well, the Most High got us. When we look at what happens in this story, we see like this chain of events that happens right here happens, and it becomes this how the family that was separated gets back together again through this situation and through the wisdom that was given to Joseph and how he was supposed to do it. And so if they did never do all of the things that Joseph said for them to do, then all of the end result never happens. And right, so I'm saying that we have to be able to not just sit around and think that every time that the Most High is going to just drop manna out of the sky for us. Sometimes we got to go out and literally prepare for what's going on, because that's wisdom. I heard somebody say the other day, which it makes a lot of sense, where he was talking about Yeshua being tempted by Satan, and where Yeshua literally could have thrown himself from the high place and lived. He had the ability to do it, but he said he wasn't not to tempt the Most High, your Elohim. So he wasn't going to do it, even though he had the ability to do it. Right? He had the ability to do something. Yeshua did, but he didn't do it. And then he says that he not to tempt the Most High, your Elohim. So if we sit up here and say, well, I know, there ain't no toilet paper, but I know that the Most High is he's going to provide me with some. I feel like you tempting the Most High then, right?
You're not trying to even get it.
You're not even trying to get it. You got every ability to sit up here and go do it, but you just saying, nah, he gonna take care of me.
I was speaking to a widow, and she was talking about how Yah was blessing her with food, like just out of nowhere, like extra food, not food that she needs to eat, but like a bunch of soup and a bunch of like pasta and different, things. And she was saying how I think she got like 3 dozen eggs, and it's just her.
Yeah.
But it was like the donated food that they was giving out, and they brought it to her house. And I said, yeah. I said, well, for the widow and people who can't get out, Yah will, show up or have people to bring things or whatever. But for us who are able-bodied, and we just sat around and was like, she can't even leave her place. So Yah's providing for her, but for people who can actually get up and go somewhere and drive somewhere, especially, you don't have any excuse on it.
Yeah. So I think that, just kind of thinking about the wisdom that Joseph had in this particular situation, where it just seems now it's kind of, it's looking at this, it's something that's completely relevant to what we're actually going through, is where, we're in this place that, is this, it's our Egypt. We're in our Egypt, right? And there's this plague that's rolling through the land. We have to do what we're physically able to do to prepare for, the things that's going on. And for us not to do it, it's not using wisdom, and it's tempting the Most High.
If you have like a sick person and you bring somebody who has an illness right next to them, they're not going to get.
You can't sit up here and have. We have to take the natural precautions that we're able to take, and not just sit up here and think that and say, the Most High is just going to allow me to just do whatever, and not use wisdom. Joseph over here in this practical situation used wisdom. He saw that there was going to be this time of plentiness, so he stored up in the time of plenty to prepare for the time of lack. He didn't just sit up here and say, well, the Most High is with me, so I know that he's going to allow me he's going to stretch my food out. He didn't say that. He went out there and he got a bunch of stuff and put it up in the storehouse. He used wisdom to move through the situation that was going on. And so, again, when we look over here and apply this to our situation, we see the Most High has things going on in and around us, and he tells the people whether they with him or not, but they can't understand what they're being told. So it takes those who are connected to the Most High to be able to help them and do that. And the example that we see given, he didn't sit up there and say, draw a line down in the sand. And he didn't give him some magic potion to do. Like, he didn't give him this voodoo kind of magical, fanciful thing to do. It was a practical thing. You go out here, you get enough food, and you don't eat all the food. You ration it out. He gave him a practical way to attack this thing that was happening. That's wisdom. And so we have to be able to, in these times, even though we're connected to the Father, we must use practical wisdom motive, moving our way through these things that are going on. We got to do that. And we have the examples of this. When we look in the scriptures, and we think about the foolish and the wise virgins, right? There was ones who they stored up their oils, and then there's the ones who didn't. And then when the master came back, it wasn't like that they was sitting up there and said, well, you didn't store, but these other ones did, so you could go ahead and get some of theirs. They was without, because they just didn't do just these practical things, right? And so we look at these examples that we see in the scripture, and they're relevant for what we're going through even on today. And it is necessary for us to not always just be like so super spiritual that we think that there's not a practical answer for some of these things. We might not know exactly what the future holds, but we know that there are things that we're physically capable of doing that we need to take care of before you're not able to take care of it. And then you get caught up, and there's now you jammed up because you didn't take the precautions that you should have taken when you had the chance. And so
it's not a selfish thing either.
What
Like how Joseph's advice was for saving all the people around Egypt, really.
Oh yeah. Right. Well, right, because he was dealing with the king, with the pharaoh of the whole situation. The knowledge that he gave was for the entire kingdom. But I think to a degree now, when you're applying that to your own situation, you have to deal with your kingdom, which is your family. When the Pharaoh here and is receiving this knowledge from Joseph, he's basically the father of the nation over there. And so he has to sit up here and think about what is good for his kingdom and his family. And so, families need to really sit up here and think about, what they need to do for their kingdom, which is, who's at your respective address and the people who's connected to you. You have to think about these things and think about the practical provisions and things that you are able to make, so that you're able to do all that you can physically do. If things are out of your control, that's one thing. If there's nothing that you can do, there's nothing you can do. But don't sit up here and don't do nothing because you think that things are going to fall out the sky and magically assist you. They very well may do that. But you can't sit up here and just say within yourself, I'm not going to do nothing because he got me. Because he didn't never do nothing like that with Israel. He didn't operate like that. That's not.
Even, I don't know if I can say it, but even like preparing for the holy days coming up, people that go out and buy their wine before the state store closed.
Yeah.
You might be not.
I know. Why? I know.
The beer distributors.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's stuff going on out here. So that's what I mean.
They just messed with Israel when they shut the state.
They did. Down. They did mess with Israel. Like, what you mean? Got Passover coming up. I gotta get my wine. So I'm just saying that looking at this Torah portion this week and thinking about what's going on, you know, we have to prepare all that we can. You can't expect for the Most High to come out and save you, and you not doing your due diligence, your part of the situation. Even when we think about the 10 virgins, the 5 wise and the 5 foolish, they was waiting on the master to return, but both of them was waiting for the master to return. But again, 5 of them properly prepared and did everything that they could physically do in anticipation of his return, and the other ones didn't, right? And they're counted as foolish, right? So we don't want to be counted as foolish, you know, even if we say that this is, if we even say that this is, you know, the beginning of the end, right? You can't, you still have to prepare for, you know, the end in every way that you're physically able to do it. Don't sit up here and tempt the Most High and not do all that you can do in order to prepare for these things, because, you know, he calls for us to be wise and use wisdom, and you know he gives us these signs and things, and so that we can see that these things are coming and are at our doorstep. But even at that, we still don't know the exact timeline, right? So we have to make all of the preparations that we're able to make, you know, and not be foolish in these things. And again, with the Torah portion, looking at the Torah portion, we see that, you know, they could have just you know, did nothing, and then what would happen, right? So we have to be able to use wisdom in all of the things that we do, and continue to seek the Most High's face, and continue to experience the preciousness of Messiah and draw closer and closer to Messiah, so that we can hear and know what it is that He would have for us to know, and not be left in the dark, and connect ourselves with people who are doing the same thing, so that the things that the Most High is telling you, He might not be telling them, and the things that He's telling them, He might not be telling you. But when you come together, you're able to gain that wisdom from each other and get that collective knowledge and know the fullness of what the Most High is doing in these days and times. Okay, you Elder Jonathan, you have anything to add to that situation there?
Down yet, but if you got the means, you know, whatever, you gotta pay attention to the signs, and you know, do what you can within your means. Or if you need help from somebody or whatever, don't be afraid to reach out or whatever. And you know, like the more I said here, you know, we depend on each other. You know, that's the most we did things according to the nation. You know, even though he was trying to tell the people at the time, you know, because the ark didn't build itself. Noah had to build it. You know,
Yeah.
so he was still doing some work. You know, for all that time, that was his preparation. But he knew something was coming, and the
Mm-hmm.
people didn't want to listen.
Yeah.
And so what happened? It was too late. So, you know, like you say, closed mouth don't get fed. If you want to know something or whatever, you gotta be
Yeah.
able to speak up, or be assertive in that fashion. So that's about it. All I gotta
Yeah.
say.
All right. Okay, very good. Okay, so that being said, we will say Shabbat Shalom for now, and y'all willing, we will be back next week with continuing on with the look through the Torah portion. All right, Shabbat Shalom.